Good morning, everyone. We're
Good
gonna
morning.
start. Hi, good morning. We're gonna start in a bit. We'll just need to wait for some folks. Thank you.
Dreaming of becoming a pilot was once just a thought that would happen when pigs fly. But that dream went to become my destiny through PhilSCA's help.
Man has always been fascinated by the dream of flying. At the Philippine State College of Aeronautics, or PhilSCA, we are proud to be part of the growing global aviation industry. By providing excellent instruction and training, preparing students ready for takeoff. At PhilSCA, we bring the dream of flying into reality. The Philippine State College of Aeronautics, or PhilSCA, is the only government-owned educational institution that offers aviation-related courses. Aside from its undergraduate courses, it is the only institution in the Philippines that offers master's programs in aeronautical education and management. Accredited by the Accrediting Agency of Chartered Colleges and Universities in the Philippines. PhilSCA's Institute of Engineering and Technology is an approved training organization certified by the Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines. PhilSCA is 9001-2015 ISO certified.
At the Philippine State College of Aeronautics, we imbued our students with skills and balanced liberal arts. How are we going to do that? We do that by giving them quality education through instruction, research, and extension, and community engagement. By this, our students will become compliant to the demand of the industry.
PhilSCA knows very well that to produce professionals, there is a need for a professional educational institution. That is why we constantly update our equipment and technologies. PhilSCA works with 4 military air bases in the country. They serve as an ideal location for training with safety in mind. Given the right tools and information, our students are bound to excel in their training.
PhilSCA is an institution that provides world-class engineers, and it has been proving itself for 4 years in a row now. And with this, if I become an aeronautical engineer in the future, I know that I will become the catalyst for change and transformation, and it will become a great stepping stone for me for the betterment of our country.
With a high percentage of board passers and for being top 1 in the Professional Regulation Commission, or PRC, in the Aeronautical Engineering Board examination from 2004 to 2019. No doubt, PhilSCA is the #1 aeronautical school in the country.
PhilSCA is our golden ticket to the aviation industry. Provides an avenue not only for aspiring pilots, but also for those in the field of aviation technology and liberal arts. The institution equips us with the proper skill set to become globally competitive individuals in our chosen field of expertise. So with the right facilities, competent faculty, we are able to master different concepts and subjects.
Aside from being equipped with a passion for aviation, our staff members are dedicated professionals that value teamwork. Currently, PhilSCA is one of the top performing aeronautical engineering schools in the country. PhilSCA graduates have taken off all over the world with different airline companies.
We became the only developing country in the world that is doing this, free higher education. We are now providing access to students to higher education. We want to make sure it is access to quality education.
There is a little in life that can be compared in achieving your dreams. In PhilSCA, we make sure that you will have a clear takeoff.
Dreaming of becoming a pilot was once just
Good morning, everyone.
Morning, sir.
Hello. So we will start the program with the prayer and national anthem to be followed with the PhilSCA hymn. So again, I'm welcoming you to PhilSCA E Extension Series number 2. This is your moderator, Anton Rivera. Hold on, let me just play.
Praise God from whom all blessings flow. Praise God, all creatures here below. Praise God above ye heavenly hosts. Praise Father, Son, and Holy Ghost.
At ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
of grace. We offer all our minds and hands upon thy anthem raise, of faith that keeps our hopes alive, will echo through the air. Let wisdom be our constant guide, your vision pure and fair. O PhilSCA dear, O PhilSCA dear, thy name we'll keep within our hearts forever. O alma mater, trust with ardent love, our dignity and right. Glory to our guide above, for truth and arts we strive. The victory near without pretense, our courage shield all fear. The forum learning excellence, O alma mater dear. O PhilSCA dear, O PhilSCA dear, thy name we'll keep within our hearts forever. O alma mater dear,
A few reminders for all participants. Recording policy: video recording of the session is strictly prohibited. However, participants are welcome to take screenshots and photographs of personal use. We kindly request that any shared images are not published or distributed without prior permission. Also, to minimize disruptions, microphone and camera etiquette are ensured clarity for audio. Participants are requested to keep their microphones on mute unless instructed otherwise by the organizer. Similarly, please keep your camera turned off unless specifically asked to turn it on for interactive activities or discussions. For compliance and conduct, the organizer of PhilSCA E-Extension Series reserve the right to remove any participants who fails to adhere to the aforementioned guidelines or engages in disruptive behavior during the session. Good morning, everyone, again. I'm Anton Rivera, and let us all discover captivating stories and influential figures that we have shaped aviation's rich past. Today, we're gonna discuss, or we're gonna have a informative discussion about the topic writing aviation history. And we have here distinguished resource speakers, and I'm so very excited to hear their insights on this important topic. Before we get started, I would like to introduce our first speaker and give a brief overview of his works. He graduated with a bachelor's degree in political science with a specialization in international relations from the Polytechnic University of the Philippines in 2017. In 2019, he was accepted into a scholarship program of Indonesia's Ministry of Education and Culture. We, where he studied their language and culture. Because of this, apart from his native Filipino and English language, He also speaks Indonesian. Currently, he is on his way to earning his master's degree in public administration from the University of Rizal System Antipolo. He is also a faculty member of the Philippine State College of Aeronautics under Humanities, Arts, and Social Science area. Let's welcome Mr. Luigi Reginald B. Resolas.
Okay. Good morning po sa lahat. Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all doing okay. Thank you for that very kind introduction. No? Uh, Allow me to share my screen for uh, first session of today's talk. Okay, so again, good morning. No, so when I was asked no to do a talk about writing aviation history, no, so this is precisely what I had in mind. No, so aviation history in the Philippines is largely an untapped area. In other countries like the US or most countries in Western Europe, they have a pretty much developed aviation history. No? But in the Philippines, hindi pa ganoong ka-develop because of uh, the examples that I'm gonna mention as we go along in this talk. No? So before we begin, ano ba muna yung ibig sabihin ng aviation history? So I pieced it together and came up with this definition. Ano? Yung una, definition of history and the definition of aviation. So according to the Cambridge Dictionary, it defines history as the study of or a record of past events considered together, especially events of a particular period, country, or subject, whereas it defines aviation as the activity of flying aircraft or of designing, producing, and keeping them in good condition. So, ano ibig sabihin nun? Therefore, aviation history is the study of or a record of past events pertaining to the activity of flying aircraft or of designing, producing, and keeping them in good condition. And so we might think no, that the history of aviation only began when the Wright brothers made their first successful flight. That was in 1903 for those who are not uh, very familiar no, with the history of flying. Doon tayo nagkakamali. Humans have always been fascinated no, about flying, and the history of aviation encompasses over 2,000 years of rich and curious history of peoples wanting to reach the skies. No? Papakita natin yung mabilis na montage or example nitong sinasabi kong 2,000 years of rich history. So sa ancient China pa lang, no, uh, kites are said to have originated in China around 1000 BCE to 221 BCE, with the first kites made of wood and mimicking the shapes of birds. So curious humans seeing birds in the sky, no, wondered what it's like up there. No, between 618 CE to 907 CE, craftsmen began creating their lighter kites. First with silk and bamboo, then later on with paper and then paper and bamboo. And I think lahat tayo meron tayong parang earliest memory no of flying a kite. No, nandun yung nagsisimula yung earliest fascination natin with the sky, no? Tapos around 852 BCE, ito hindi established yung historical record niya, no, but it's a legend which is a reflection of a country's culture. The legendary King Bladud of England, no, who is said to have died because he attempted to fly. So he fell to his death uh, because of this attempt, no? So humans have always have this curious habit, and then fast forward sa mga sumunod pang uh, centuries, no? eto, mas familiar tayo dito if you've graced through this in your high school or college, no? One of the most notable aviation-related works during the Renaissance was those of Leonardo da Vinci's attempts, no, to design a flying machine. At maraming mga documents na nagpapakita nito, like this one on the left side of your screen, yung Manoscritti di Leonardo da Vinci sul volo degli uccelli e varie altre materie, or yung Leonardo da Vinci's manuscripts on the flight of birds and various other subjects. No, makita natin yung mga design niya, yung intention niya. No, so of course this predates yung modern helicopters. But imagine, no, hundreds and hundreds of years back, meron na tayong idea or talagang intention, no, to fly in the skies, no. Then yung sumunod naman, yung 17th century, no, was dominated by lighter than air aircraft concepts. And when hydrogen gas was discovered, aviation in this realm took off, no, with the first lighter than air flight taking place in 1783. To nakikita natin, no, as shown in the picture. Experiment of the aerostatic globe of Mr. Charles and Robert at the Jardin des Tuileries on December 1st, 1783. So, hanggang ngayon, may mga hot air balloons pa rin, mostly for recreation, pero ito yung nagbigay ng dagdag na inspiration for the aviation industry to develop. And then, yung familiar yung mas marami sa atin, no? The first sustained heavier than air flight by the Wright brothers, no, si Wilbur and Orville Wright, no. So this took place, no, in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina on the 17th of December 1903. It only lasted for 12 seconds and the height of or a span of 120 feet. So saglit lang siya, mababa lang yung lipad, but it was very monumental in the aviation industry, no? So, ito yung kauna-unahang heavier than air flight. O sige, para sa mga hindi ganoong kapamilyar, no, may dalawa tayong terms na binanggit. Lighter than air at heavier than air na flight. So, pag sinabi natin kasing lighter than air aircraft or lighter than air flight, no, yung isang vehicle, it achieves flight by creating buoyancy. So, gumagamit sila ng hangin para paliparin yung isang sasakyan, no? Whereas yung heavier than air flight, no, or yung aerodyne, it generates lift with the flow of air over an airfoil. Paano ko ba explain to na mas maintindihan na mas marami? Remember when you were younger, no? Merong mga science experiments noon when you're asked to blow a paper, blow wind over a paper. Meron mo tayo example dito. Pakita ko sa inyo. Ito. Di ba pag naghumipan tayo dito sa ibabaw ng papel, umaangat siya, no? So mas maganda lang siyang design, no? Pag in-apply sa mga eroplano. So the paper will start to move, no? So an airfoil is kind of that piece of paper, but it's designed to be much more efficient, no? So dati gumagamit lamang tayo, no, ng mga gases, no, to allow these machines, no, to hold up in the sky, no? But now it uses complex machineries, no, and theories surrounding physics, no, essentially. And then after that, no, that the aviation industry really took off. The two world wars and the space race during the Cold War between main rivals, the United States and the Soviet Union, allowed the aviation industry to develop at a rapid pace. The two world wars and the ensuing space race during the Cold War between main rivals, the United States and the Soviet Union, catapulted the development of the aviation industry at the speed of light. And this is evident with how technology has evolved or developed, no? Kung titingnan natin, in the past 100 years, and this is mainly politically driven, no? Like what I have told my students in my class, no? Kung paano nag-develop yung aviation industry over a short span of time. Imagine if you're in a war between two countries. No, you have a country with an inferior aircraft. You also have a country with a far superior aircraft. No, di syempre yung inferior mas matatalo nung superior. So ang gagawin ng isa, they will invest into research and development. Yung iba nga meron pang mga technological espionage, no, to get the best best technology, no? So nagpapaunahan essentially. And this is much more evident during the time of the Cold War, no? But yeah, we don't have much time to focus on that, but in a gist ganun siya, no? Then sa Pilipinas naman, kasama rin tayo sa napakaagang history ng aviation. So in 1912, no, Gagaban, an Igorot chieftain, became the first Filipino to fly as a passenger when he rode the Red Devil biplane piloted by Lee Hammond. No, so tatagpuan to sa Trails in Philippine Skies, a history of aviation in the Philippines from 1909 to 1941. No, so he was considered as the first Filipino to fly as a passenger. And a few years later, no, yan, in 1920, Alfredo Carmelo became the first Filipino aviator. No, he became an acrobatic pilot and performed until 1976. He lived a full life. No, he didn't become a commercial pilot like what we mostly see sa mga tao when they want to become pilots. No, he was mostly an acrobatic pilot, meaning doing stunts. No, pero he was a pioneering aviator. No, at sa mga sumunod pang taon, no, hanggang sa kasalukuyan, no, the aviation industry in the Philippines took off with the establishment of commercial airline companies, Philippine Airlines, for example, in 1941, no? And yung period ng deregularization, no, pagpasok ng Cebu Pacific, no, Zest Air dati, defunct na siya ngayon or wala na, no, then naging Air Asia, and so on. No, makikita natin talaga na nag-develop yung aviation industry sa Pilipinas as time progresses, no. So, I think it begs the question, kasi ang topic natin is about writing aviation history. So I think it's very important to establish, now that I've given you a preview or a background of aviation history in the world and in the Philippines, no, ano yung importance, no, and relevance of studying and documenting Philippine aviation history. Now, I've come up with a few reasons why it's important and it's relevant, no, to study Philippine aviation history. Una-una sa lahat, and ultimately, no, yung importance ng research and scholarship. Studying and documenting Philippine aviation history allows us to fill the gaps in research and available records. No? Since aviation history is a niche topic, ito yung sinasabi ko kanina. When we talk about history, broad topic yan. No? History has many different branches. You have political history, you have economic history, no? Those branches of history. Aviation history is a very niche topic. No? So, syempre, di ba pag pinagagawa tayo ng research, lagi sa ating pinapahanap, ano yung research gap? Ano yung gap or yung area na hindi pa nagagawa ng pananaliksik? So, yun yung importance, no, or relevance na pag-aaral ng aviation history. Next. No? Ayan. Preserving national heritage. Like other branches of history, no, studying and documenting Philippine aviation history allows us to celebrate, appreciate, and honor pioneers in the industry. It also ensures, no, that their legacies are secured for future generations to come. No? So, pinakita ko sa inyo yung mga notable events, no, in Philippine aviation na nako-commemorate natin sila, nabibigyan parangal, no, for their contributions, for their unique contributions to our country's national development. Or itong example na to, no? So for example, yung nakikita natin dito sa picture, this is the old air traffic control tower. So para sa mga hindi rin ganun ka-familiar, yung air traffic control tower, pag nasa airport tayo, may makikita tayong tower doon, no? Ito'y parang radio control tower para makapag-usap yung mga piloto sa ere at yung mga tao na nasa ground, no? To direct air traffic, essentially. No? Itong building na to, nag-exist pa rin to. Now, I think it was converted into a restaurant and an events place. No? Pero this building, historic building, still exists. No? By doing aviation history, it allows us, no, to preserve, no, the heritage of this building. Sa Makati ito. No? So, yun nga, yung Nilsson Airfield sa Makati. Ayan. No? So, itong nakikita nating lumang larawan sa kaliwa, no, it shows the runways of old Nilsson Airfield in Makati, nasa left. No? Makikita natin Makati noon, parang puro palayan, no? And on the right, no, is the map of the Makati Central Business District. So makikita natin, no, yung triangle sa gitna, no, the Ayala Triangle Gardens. no? Where the old airport used to be. At, diba? Interesting. No? So that's the second importance. No? Lastly, to understand the ever-changing socio-economic and cultural dynamics. The evolution, no, of Philippine aviation is a result of our country's collective experience. No? Once regarded as a status symbol, the sustained economic advances democratized air travel, which had a ripple effect among social classes. Ano yung ibig sabihin natin pag sinabing na-democratize yung air travel? Okay, bigyan ko kayo ng konting anecdote. No? I first flew when I was in first year high school. No, I think I was 13 years old, no, at the time. Dati no, air travel seemed like a luxury, no. I get fascinated whenever my classmates would tell me their experience, no. Uh, Tawag dito. No, although marami pa rin no yung hindi naka-experience sa pagsakay sa eroplano, I think it would be safe to say na batay na rin sa statistics na mas marami na talaga mga Pilipino ang nakasakay na ng eroplano. Una, bumaba yung presyo, improving economic conditions, no? So, at least once in their lives. Dati parang novelty siya. Pag naririnig mo na kwento na iba, ay nakasakay na siya sa eroplano, nakita na niya yung mga clouds ng malapitan, no? So, it really changed, no, the lives of Filipinos. It allowed us, no, to reach far-flung areas, communities, and connect them to the broader world, no. So now that we've established the importance and relevance of aviation history, specifically Philippine aviation history, it's worth asking then kung mayroon na bang mga works on Philippine aviation history. Thankfully, some scholars and researchers have tried to break through this seemingly untapped and undiscovered field. So several books and papers, no, have been authored. No, papakitaan ko kayo ng ilan sa mga examples. If you want to write aviation history, these are some of the resources na pwede niyong gamitin, no, to embark on this kind of journey. Yan. Excuse me. So existing works on Philippine aviation history. So ito, 100 years of Philippine aviation from 1909 to 2009. I-focus on airline management, no, by Avelino L. Zapanta. Yung History of Philippine Aviation was authored also by Zapanta. Trails in Philippine Skies, yung pinakita ko sa inyo yung picture kanina ng Igorot Chieftain, no? A History of Aviation in the Philippines from 1909 to 1941 by Enrique B. Santos. And Flight to the Future, Perspective on the First 50 Years of Philippine Air Force, authored in 1967. Yan. Binding the Islands, Air Transport and State Capacity Building in the Philippines. So it talks about the importance of the aviation industry in nation building, no? Commerce in the Skies, an introduction to the airline industry for Filipino, authored in 1977. Study of the development of post-war domestic civil aviation in the Philippines from 1946 to 1955. Philippine Wings, a short history of commercial aviation in the Philippines by Enrique B. Santos. So yan yung ilan sa mga examples ng mga notable works na ito. So actually kukonti lang talaga sila. And makikita natin yung dates in which they were made, no, very far yung gaps, no? And so kailangan talaga natin ng maraming mga researchers and workers in this niche field. As I understand, no, some of you are high school students, no? Maybe nag-iisip kung ano yung course na i-take nyo in college, no? Some of you are already in college, maybe taking up degrees pertaining to history, no? So this is an interesting topic that perhaps you could do a research on, no? So sige. Okay. So ipag-usapan natin yung repositories. Ano ba itong mga repositories na to? No? Repositories pertains to a place where archival documents are stored, preserved, and made accessible as well as the people who work there. No? So when we talk about repositories, in other words, pag sinabi natin repositories, ito yung mga imbakan. No? Sa madaling sabi. So there are, I divided it into 4 types. No? Meron tayong mga government agencies which serve as repositories for important historical and cultural documents, mga non-government organizations or the private sector, educational institutions, and even museums, no, na maaari nating pagkuhaan ng mga dokumento if we want to conduct aviation, or we want to write, no, Philippine aviation history. So unang-una sa lahat na maaari nating puntahan, of course, the Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines, no. Ito yung kumbaga pinakamahalagang government agency that pertains to our safety in the sky. So basahin natin yung ilan sa mga mandates nitong CAAP, no. To establish and prescribe rules and regulations for the inspection and registration of all aircraft owned and operated in the Philippines and all air facilities. So halos lahat ng mga airports sa Pilipinas are maintained, no, and run by the Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines. Establish and prescribe the corresponding rules and regulations for the enforcement of laws governing air transportation. Determine, fix, and or prescribe charges and or rates pertinent to the operation of public air utility facilities and services. Administer and operate the Civil Aviation Training Center. Operate and maintain national airports, air navigation, and other similar facilities in compliance to ICAO or the International Civil Aviation Organization, and perform other powers and functions may be prescribed by the law. So, in other words, yung CAAP yung nag-ensure that we are safe when we fly. No, anong relation nito dito sa sinasabi natin na repositories? Of course, being the central agency pertaining to civil aviation, meron silang special office, no, yung Central Records and Archives Division, no. So ibig sabihin nandito yung lahat ng mga records pertaining to mga aviation incidents, no, mga vital statistics, no. They handle the compilation and safekeeping of all records and documents. They receive and disseminate mails all correspondences and communications, nag-authenticate ng mga records and documents, and performing other functions as may be required by the management. Now, ano yung relation nito if we want to write Philippine aviation history, no? Siyempre, nagtatago nga sila ng mga records eh. Pwede nating ma-access yun through the current Freedom of Information Framework, no, yung FOI. Kasi since government agency naman ang CAAP, no? Another source na maaari nating puntahan, same museum, no? The Philippine Air Force Aerospace Museum. So the Philippine Air Force Aerospace Museum is a military museum, no, of the Armed Forces of the Philippines that was earlier founded as the Marcos Museum on May 2nd, 1974. So this world-class facility of the Philippine Air Force is a heritage and a science and technology museum built to honor the heroes and airmen of the Philippine Air Force. No, the museum displays Philippine military aviation history and related aerospace science exhibits and is open to the public. Sana nakapunta ng ilan sa inyo, no, dito. So isa ito, I think ito lang, no. Correct me if I'm wrong, pero I can't think of any other place na museum na naka-focus, no, sa aviation. And this is a military museum. I can't think of a place na may museum na dedicated to civil aviation. No? So ito yung sinasabi natin, no? May gap, no? Pero if you want to embark na on research, they're one of the best peoples to talk about aviation history, no, in the Philippines. So that's one. Another, no, yung National Archives. So, yan, may government agency din tayo na talagang nakafocus sa archiving. So the National Archives of the Philippines shall be primarily responsible for the implementation and objectives and provisions of this act, yung RA 9740, nagtatag sa agency na ito, no. So rules and regulations and coordinate government-wide programs governing the creation, general protection, use, storage, and disposition of public records, including the acquisition, storage, and preservation of public archives, no. So lahat ng mga important documents, no, pertaining to it. So maaari tayong sumangguni dito and to see if they have pertinent information that we might need when writing aviation history, no. Next, another kind, yung mga NGOs nga and private institutions. So this includes companies engaging in commercial and general aviation, no. Ano ba difference nito? Yung commercial and general aviation. We talk about general aviation, no. Typically ito yung mga aircraft for personal transport or business transport that does not use a commercial airline. Pag sinabi natin commercial, ito mga nakikita nating logo, mga logos are examples, no, of commercial airlines. Pag mga general aviation, mga nakikita nating mas maliliit na mga eroplano, no, For example, mga emergency medical evacuations, mga airborne law enforcement, no, mga gumagamit ng aircrafts for agricultural practices, no. So these are considered as general aviation. Ngayon, syempre, mga companies ito, they also keep their records. But unlike government agencies, they're much harder to get through. But with proper authorizations, no, maaari rin tayo makakuha ng mga needed documents for us to really write, no, Philippine aviation history. So apart from NGOs and private institutions, we also have educational institutions. No? Paano silang magiging source? No? For example, to, of course, yung ating beloved school, no, Philippine State College of Aeronautics and other aeronautical and flight schools in the Philippines, no, PATS College of Aeronautics, Airlink International Aviation College, FIAT University, WCC Aeronautical and Technological College. Ano yung maaari nating makuha sa kanila? These educational institutions, of course, have research manuscripts or yung mga theses which could be useful then in writing aviation history. No, so maaari tayong kumuha ng information from these places, no. So, yan. Now that we've know no yung mga repositories, ngayon tumuko tayo sa data gathering. How do we seek data, no, from these repositories that we've just discussed, no? So, ano ba muna yung data gathering, no? Data gathering pertains to the collection and synthesis of information from a variety of stakeholders and sources in an objective, unbiased manner to reach a conclusion, goal, or judgment and enable strategic and leadership decision making. So we gather data because we want to arrive at a conclusion. No? When we're doing a research, laging may research question, may objective, it arrives to a conclusion. So when doing Philippine aviation history, when writing Philippine aviation history, two main types yung pwede natin gawin. We can do archival research and oral history. Ano ba itong dalawang to? So archival research methods include a broad range of activities applied to facilitate the investigation of documents and textual materials produced by and about organizations. In its most classic sense, archival methods are those that involve the study of historical documents, that is, documents created at some point in the relatively distant past, providing us access that we might not otherwise have to the organizations, individuals, and events of that earlier time. So ito yung mga dokumentong nakatago sa mga imbakan, sa mga archives, no. Maraming mga organizations ang may archives, even schools, no, they have archives. If you want to look, for example, mga transcript of records, no, way back 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, may archives yung mga respective schools ninyo pertaining to that. Government agencies as well, no. So safe to say then, even companies pertaining to aviation in the Philippines also have archives that people can access and peruse through, no, to write Philippine aviation history or yung oral history research, no. I think self-explanatory siya, no. So when we talk about oral history research, it collects memories and personal commentaries of historical significance through recorded interviews, no. An oral history interview generally consists of a well-prepared interviewer questioning an interviewee and recording their exchange in audio or video format. Napakahalaga na yung ini-interview natin or yung ginagamitan natin ng oral history interview first-hand first-hand witness, no. Talaga siya yung nakasaksi or nakaranas ng mga particular na historical events in Philippine aviation. Hindi pwedeng narinig niya lang sa kapitbahay, no. That's now how it works. And hindi lang sa aviation history. When we're doing oral history, we should really know that this person experienced what he claims to have experienced, no? Hindi pwedeng hearsay lang. And dapat nagko-corroborate ito sa other historical sources. No? So yan yung maaari nating gamiting two approaches, no, in writing Philippine aviation history. Now, as we approach to the end of this talk, no, ano yung mga challenges? No? Kaya tayo nagkakaroon ng ganitong talk. Kung madali lang at abundant, no, yung ating sources, I think there wouldn't be a need for this kind of talk. But since we're talking about this today, means meron talaga mga challenges sa pagsulat ng Philippine aviation history. We won't sugarcoat it, no? Writing Philippine aviation history seems like a daunting task. It's doable, but it's difficult to do simply because of the lack of available historical materials pertaining to it. So una, historical records on aviation are rare because Philippine aviation is a recent field compared to other fields of history. No, records pertaining to it are very difficult to come by. Bukod sa rare na siya, ano pa, they're also very difficult to find. Apart from being rare, historical records pertaining to Philippine aviation are fragmented. No, currently, walang centralized repository and archival agency dedicated to the preservation, promotion, and the study of of Philippine aviation history, unlike in other countries. No, tapos if you want, so ito archival to. If you want to do oral history research, then ayan, the downside of oral history, fading memories. No, due to its reliance on personal accounts, doing oral history is time sensitive as memory tends to fade over time or be distorted and modified by subsequent events. Diba, when we, parang kung i-relate natin sa ating mga personal buhay, when we look back to a particular event when we were younger, no, we might remember it a little bit differently compared to how we really experienced it. And doon nagiging medyo prone sa siguro mga factual errors, no, yung mga interviewin natin. No, so time is of the essence, kumbaga, pagdating sa paggawa ng Philippine aviation history. No? And so, I think it's worth asking this question to end this. No? Is Philippine aviation history worth writing? No? Ano kaya? Of course, no, absolutely. There's so much to be gained by writing Philippine aviation history. It may be daunting due to the aforementioned challenges, but it forms part, no, of our broader Philippine history. Our deeper appreciation of our history is contingent upon our understanding of its totality. Parang ano lang yan eh. When we talk about history, a lot of people, no, especially when I read comments on social media, they say, ay, history yun, dapat mag-move on na tayo. Bakit pa pinabalikan yung mga past na yan? Dapat we move on daw. No? Pero kung i-relate natin sa ating mga personal na buhay, halimbawa when we're meeting someone new, no? Like we meet a new person, di ba parang it's always important to ask ano yung background nila. Bakit? No? Because their background or their past, no, is a reflection of who they are today. So ganun din sa branch na to ng history. As with any other branches of Philippine history, no? Mahalaga siya sa collective national identity natin. With that, no, I'd like to end my talk with a quote, no, from one of my childhood heroes, no, si Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, yung author ng The Little Prince. He's also a pioneering aviator. He said, "I fly because it releases my mind from the tyranny of petty things." No? So hindi man tayo mga piloto ourselves, no? We can adapt this attitude of this aviator, no? We may not fly literally like him, but through scholarship, we can free ourselves from the mundane and unnecessary things. So continue to seek scholarship and widen your horizons. With that, maraming salamat po.
Thank you so much, Sir Luigi Rizales. You know what? It's very nice that we had discussions where informative and thought-provoking. You know, this perspective on evolution of aviation history, including technological advancement, key milestones, also cultural impact. It's really interesting, right? Now, it's very clear that there's a passion or there's a lot of passion and enthusiasm. So again, thank you so much, Mr. Luigi Rizales, for your in-depth discussions about aviation history. Now, I would like to introduce our next resource speaker. He is the author of the book Crimson Cramming, a literary work about the perception of a group of students on art of cramming for exam. He's also written a paper on the Spanish Inquisition, trying to debunk the age-old belief that this dark age was triggered solely by religion. On top of this creative works, he's also done technical writing, authoring the standard operating manual for two companies, one local and one abroad. He's currently working under the Office of the President of the Philippine State College of Aeronautics as a program technical specialist. Let's give it up for Engineer Jose Paulo G. Morales.
Thank you very much. All right, I'd like to share my screen first. All right, can everybody see my screen? Hello?
Not yet, sir. We can see your screen.
Hold on. All right, how about now?
There you go, sir. We can see it now.
All right. All right, good morning everybody. It's quite funny that Mr. Luigi's ending for his talk would be my first slide. This is The Little Prince by author Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. All right, again, thank you for this opportunity to share with you the side of aviation, which I am very passionate about, history. And for those who do not know me, I've spent 12 years in Singapore with Singapore Airlines Engineering Company and Airbus Singapore. Having to listen to Singaporeans talk about the history of their great country. And of course, Singapore is a great country. Only a fool would say otherwise, in my opinion, of course. And that the Philippines would have been of the same economic status had we focused more on the bright ideas of our leaders rather than being on the streets screaming our lungs out, calling for resignation of whoever leaders that we don't fancy. But that's politics history. We're here to talk about aviation history. And mind you, I'm not just going to talk about Philippine aviation history. We'll talk in general. And I'm sure, especially after Mr. Luigi's talk, you are now very well founded on the technical and creative know-how of writing historical research papers. So we will not delve into that too much. We'll talk more on the different areas of aviation on which we can write research papers. Let's look at the different areas of interest as far as aviation goes. Let's first have a look at the aircraft itself. Now, what are the things that we can write about as far as the aircraft goes? Your historical research may be of ancient or medieval concepts of flight or with one of two intentions. Number one, to recreate a particular concept or idea. During the time of conception, uh, ancient concepts or ideas may not have the technology. Like, take for example, this contraption here. It's a ornithopter, an idea by Leonardo da Vinci, as we all know. But he didn't have the technology during his time to 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 probably make this fly and uh you know determine what's wrong with it, why is it not flying, why is it not flying high enough or long enough, those things. And second, to just sound smart in a conversation. You're in a party and you're talking about aviation, and suddenly someone blurts out ornithopter, and whoa, smart guy. All right, so those are the two things that you can have intentions for your research paper. Okay, what are the things that uh, you can write about on ornithopter? Everyone's written about these things, this contraption here. But has anyone asked, during a time when brilliant minds were being persecuted by the church like Galileo. He had ideas that are contrary to the teachings of the church, so he was persecuted. But how about Da Vinci? He was never persecuted in the same manner, right? So ancient concepts. Next one. Speaking of angels and demons, you do not have to restrict yourselves to the super technical side or aspect of aviation for your research paper. Your research may also have a theological component, like the one in the picture here. Anyone know what this is? No? Okay, on June 21st, 1974, Joseph F. Blumrich published a book entitled The Spaceships of Ezekiel, which was how he imagined things described in the book of Ezekiel from the Holy Bible. What's the significance of the publishing date of this book? Any thoughts? 1974. Okay, he published his book 5 years after the space race started between the USA and the Soviet Union. He could have written anything else, like rocketry or propulsion system, which was somewhat related to the space race. But no, he wrote something a bit interesting. Okay, now you want to be technical on your research. You can also go into structural. Take
Hello,
for
sir.
example, yep.
I'm so
Hello.
sorry to cut you off. This is Antonio, your moderator. It's just so happens that I guess the PowerPoint presentation stuck. We cannot see the PowerPoint. Are we supposed to see that?
Yes.
Yeah, so sorry.
You don't see it now.
We can see it, sir. It's just so happened it's stuck with one slide.
Where is it? Where is it stuck?
It's
The
in
first
fourth.
slide.
I guess, sir. Fourth, sir. I guess, sir, hindi siya naka-share. I mean, naka-present.
Can you see this now?
We can only see, sir, slide number 4.
Yeah, I'm still on the fourth slide.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So you're seeing
Thank
the
you.
page lateral axis, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Yeah, I'm on that.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Okay. So structural, the right flyer. Uh, as far as maneuverability of an aircraft is concerned, modern day airplanes, as we know, use structural parts like ailerons and flaps to basically turn or maneuver the aircraft. But when the Wright brothers first flew their aircraft or airplane, they didn't have the technology to do so. So what did they do? They used warping. And what is warping? That may be one of your research. It's basically twisting your wings so that you can turn your aircraft physically, and then that's probably too much for the pilot to handle. I mean, it's you gotta have strong arms. But yeah, the right flyers did warping, and it may be it's one type of research you can do. What were the structural parts of an aircraft during those days, or 10 years after. All right. Next, your research may also be investigative in nature. Take, for example, this machine here. Anybody know what this is? The Perseverance, or which is the name of the Mars rover. Now, this type of research may in this type of research you can ask your readers, did you know that? It's about the intention again. This Mars rover was launched on July 30, 2020, but did you know that the main man who designed the landing system of this Mars rover, wait for it, was a Filipino? So you don't have to focus on the Mars rover itself. You can focus on uh, the Filipino who designed it. What was he like when he was with NASA? What was he like as a student growing up? So it's more of a did you know that research. Now let's also talk about infrastructure. This is the Singapore Airlines hangar built in 1977. It can hold three Boeing 747 aircrafts all side by side, and it was the first of its kind. How so? The entire structure is columnless. I don't know if that means anything to you. It means very little to me, but its construction was a feat on its own. Now, story goes that the first company commissioned to do its construction failed, lifting the roof. So SIA had to turn to another company, a Japanese one. And what did the Japanese do? They used hydraulic jacks, the same concept used in lifting cars for wheels change and whatnot. But with that, I'll leave the details of research for you guys. Excuse me. Can you still see my slides?
Actually, sir, it wasn't presented. That's the reason
Come
why.
on. Well, what are you seeing now?
We can only see, sir, the areas of interest, page 4 still. So I guess, sir, you can click um the book icon sa pinakababa po, nearby notes and comments.
Hold on, let me get to that. Present now, right?
Yes, sir.
And then entire screen, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, can you see now?
There you go, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. So you can see SIAEC Hangar 1 infrastructural, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. Sorry for that. Okay. Moving on. Now, areas of interest. Another area of interest is human resources. Anybody knows this guy? Does anybody know this guy? Captain Franklin Desiderio. Now, your historical research may be of about milestones. Captain Franklin Desiderio here is the first A380 pilot, Filipino pilot. So you can do a research on people like him, who was the first Filipino pilot for the Boeing 777, the Airbus A350. People like him. Another one, How about this lady? I'm sure somebody is bound to know this lady here. Anybody? Now, this is Amelia Earhart. Now, your historical research may also be of posting basically the question, anyari? So, looking at this lady, um, while trying to circumnavigate the globe in a Lockheed 10E Electra aircraft, she just up and disappeared. There had been many speculations surrounding her disappearance. Who knows? One of your research papers might shed a new light on this dark topic. And speaking of dark topics, our next guy here, we can also do a research on somebody like him. This is Captain Su Wai Ming. Now, your research may be provocative. You're now delving into the creative side of your technical research. Now, Captain Su Wai Ming of Silk Air Flight 185, which crashed into the Musi River on December 19, 1997, killing all 104 people on the flight. So why do research on this guy? Are we going to pin the accident on pilot error? Now, we have to take note that two teams investigated these accidents, one from the US, of course, Boeing, and one was from Indonesia, if I remember it right. Now, the team from the USA said that concluded that the crash was somewhat deliberate in nature. So they're basically saying it's a suicide flight. Now, a lot of research papers had been done on this subject, but was any of them truly conclusive? Who knows? Yours might be. Now, topics don't necessarily have end with the conclusion of authorities or crash investigating team. Take, for example, the case of an aircraft, this aircraft. Anybody know what this is? The LZ-129, Led Zeppelin. No. Hindenburg. Now, your research may also intend to correct what was previously done. So the Hindenburg blew up in New Jersey on May 6, 1937. Initially, investigators suspected a passenger, who was acting weird during the flight. So he was pinned of sabotage. But later on, years later, when all was said and done, it was found out that the accident was because the Zeppelin has or was using hydrogen, which, as we all know, is very volatile and explosive in nature. They were using hydrogen instead of helium, which was during that time USA was hogging. They had all the basically all of most of the helium supply in the world. Germany had a very short supply of it, so they turned to hydrogen. Unfortunately, the Hindenburg was designed for helium. So you understand what I'm saying. Um, Initial researches may point to one cause, and then later on your research might correct that previous research, and that's the type of research that you can also do. Next, engineering. Now, this old text is not the Malleus Maleficarum, or the old version of a Bible. It's actually an integrated parts catalog used by pilots and engineers before. So manuals, you can also write histories on manuals. You don't have to to focus on aircrafts, pilots. You can also research on how they did things previously, like manuals. Previously, they used this kind of integrated parts catalog whereby they had to flip through pages looking for uh, part numbers or interchangeability of parts. But now, what did they use? They use the for Airbus. Well, we use NavX, which is which can also point into or link to the integrated parts catalog. We're just with a with a click of your mouse, you can go to whatever part of the aircraft you can go to and you want to, and just basically look for answers to your questions. Now, another part of engineering that we can go to is testing. Now, this is the Wright brothers with their Wright flyers, and I'm not sure if the one piloting it is one of the Wright brothers or just the drunkard down the street, which they offered a few bucks to test the aircraft. That's how they basically did it. But nowadays, before an aircraft is manufactured, its profiles, the wings, the entire structure is passed through a wind tunnel. Now, this was the first wind tunnel created by NASA, and this is what we have now in the modern days. This is the modern day wind tunnel. Next, rocket propulsion system. Now, uh, as I've said earlier, the race for space was started in the late 1960s, but it wasn't necessarily the first time that a rocket was launched. And you can do a historical research on that. When was it done, and who did it? What was the intention? Why did the Chinese make this black powder for rocketry? Was it for weapons? Was it for launching things into space? Was it to drive dragons out of the sky just to keep it from eating up the moon? No, it's all about your intention or the questions you want to post. And lastly, politics. I'm sorry, I have nothing to say on politics. I'm an engineer by nature, by profession, and so I've got nothing to say about politics. It's up to you guys. I'm sorry. So with that said, thank you very much for your time, for listening, and for those who may have missed my previous slides, if need be, I'll give Mr. Gyro my slide presentation, and for those who want it, may ask of him. Thank you very much, and have a blessed day.
Thank you so much, Sir Morales. You know, everyone, it's nice to had a time. Let me just open my camera. There. Had a time to, to discuss the diverse range of, potential topics in writing aviation history. You know what, Sir Morales, your ideas showcase a strong knowledge and interest in the field, and we're looking forward to seeing how these topics were developed. Thank you so much again, sir. Now, now that we are done with two resources, And I'm now opening the floor for your questions for our two distinguished resource speakers. So you can open your camera, you can open your mic whenever you want to. Just raise your hand. Any question? The floor is open for any question about the discussion. None? So I guess it's very we covered everything. I guess that's the reason why they doesn't have any question from our resource speaker. And I'd like to let you know everyone that later on for our post um evaluation wherein you can get your e-certificate. By the way, everyone, it's gonna be an immediate, so don't worry. It will be delivered right on your email. So if you registered or if you're done pre-registration, of course, you're gonna get free certificate. Oh, we have one question here. Yes, Miss Shalom Zamora. The floor is yours.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, I am Assistant Professor Samora from ILAS. Actually, I'm one of the members dito, no, sa... Yes, good morning. I want to ask uh, kay Sir Paulo. Sir Morales.
Yes, ma'am. I'm here.
Hello, kumusta?
Okay lang po. How was your operation?
Yeah, medyo okay na ako. I'm recovering now. May question lang ako, sir. Yung sa mga
Yes.
licenses, saan po siya nakategorize sa area of interest?
Licenses would um wala during my yung categories na pinresent ko. It's based on my areas of interest. Walang strict na pagka ganitong topic ito lang yung it falls under this category. It I would suppose it's under what engineering based on my presentation. Pero like I said, it's really up to you. You don't have to strictly categorize it. Na if someone asks you to do a research on licenses, oh, engineering ba to or theological, or I'm sure it's not theological, or it's not infrastructure, but yeah, there's no strict category that that would restrict your creative or technical research. But like I said, I would suppose it's under engineering on based on what I've presented.
Okay. Oh, sige. Thank you, sir. May isa pa, but it's
Yeah,
quite
sure.
pero medyo personal ito, but I want you to disclose. May
Mm.
I know kasi when you were a student, PhilSCA, aeronautical, di ba? Service Aero. Tama. Yung
Oh,
course mo. Aero po, di ba? Yung course nyo.
yes,
Okay.
aeronautical engineer.
Aeronautical engineering. And you were one of my students, if I could still recall, di ba?
Yes, yes,
Isa
yes,
sa
I was.
mga pinakamagaling na estudyante ko. Okay. Sir, may I know about your licenses? Kasi nakalipad na po kayo, di ba?
I have an aeronautical engineering license, PRC license, still valid.
Okay. Okay. Last na lang, sir. Okay. Medyo curious lang ako. Sino po pwedeng mag-release ng aircraft? Because once nagkaroon na naayos, na service yung aircraft, who's capable of releasing the aircraft? Yung with license ba talaga or without?
Normally, an airline would appoint someone who would release an aircraft after undergoing heavy maintenance, but it's uh of course they would prefer someone with license. But syempre yung i-appoint nila na magre-release ng aircraft, master mechanic or whoever, would have undergone a series of trainings and courses that would equip him with the knowledge and skills to release an aircraft. So ang basically from my experience, it's all about the stamp. Kung sino ang bibigyan ng company ng stamp to release an aircraft, that's the guy. And most of the guys I've seen releasing an aircraft has either mostly an A&P license, a mechanic's license. I've never seen anyone with an aeronautical engineering license release an aircraft, but I hope to see one day.
Okay. Sir Morales, thank you. Thank you so much. Maraming salamat po.
Yeah,
Okay.
welcome. Get well soon.
There you go. Thank you so much, Ma'am Shalom and Sir Morales. Any other questions? Okay, so I guess we have covered everything today, and I would like to thank you all for, I would like to take this opportunity, by the way, to um, thank you all for attending this webinar. Throughout the years, we have explored the incredible advancements in aviation technology and the brave men and women, who made it possible, from the Wright brothers, as we discussed here, first flight, to the, supersonic conquest of America. We have seen how aviation has changed the way we live and connect with one another. And, let us take a, let us take let us continue to honor our aviation pioneers and strive for progress in this field. So again, I hope you continue to support PhilSCA extension series, and we will update you whenever we do have another series of webinar. And yeah, see you next time on our next event. Thank you. By the way, as I mentioned earlier, the post-webinar evaluation, to receive an e-certificate, kindly complete the post-webinar evaluation form in the link provided or scan the QR code. You have 2 hours only to complete this to receive an e-certificate. E-certificates will be sent to your email addresses within 15 working days. Post-webinar evaluation link, please see the link on your screen. Also, would like to remind that even though you didn't even have pre-registered or want an e-certificate, as long as you done the post-webinar evaluation.